What is poppin', guys? Welcome to today's Tech with Landon, where I discuss my experience with today's dopest tech. Now, if you're new, consider subscribing because today we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus 1 year later. All right, guys, so I used Note 10 Plus for about 7 months or so, and my wife has been using it for about the past year. And as we approach the launch of the Note 20s, I think it's about time that we recap our experience. Now, I would argue that some of the features that made Note 10 Plus a top smartphone of 2019 have held up over the past year or so, while some have not. Now, despite that, I would still argue that Note 10 Plus has maintained that top tier status. But still, in light of that top tier status, there's a myriad of reasons as to why I am still looking forward to the Note 20. Well, hear me out. I'll start with the most glaring observation. The Note 10 Plus lacks a high refresh rate display, which is a trend that began last year among mainstream Android devices like the OnePlus 7 Pro, which had a 90 Hz display. But for me, with my 7 months of use with the Note 10 Plus, I had yet to experience a high refresh rate display. So in my day-to-day experience, it just wasn't something that I was concerned with. The 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display held up very nicely when watching mostly YouTube and an occasional Netflix show, but because I took the pre-installed screen protector off, I ended up with a bunch of micro scratches all over the display, which really bugged me, so I made sure to keep it on with my S20 Ultra. My wife, on the other hand, has refused to take hers off, even though it looks like it's about that time. And even though I rarely drop my phones, I just made sure to keep it inside of a case just to play it safe, so there were no issues with dings or anything like that in that regard. And I still think the design is one of the best on the market. The boxy appearance and the display melting right into the metal sides is gorgeous, but the Aura Glow color isn't as dope as I initially thought. Now, of course, all the initial media coverage showed the rainbow color, but the majority of the time it's kind of this bluish silver color that I think is pretty bland. The lights really got to hit it just right to really give it that effect. So after a while, I ended up just skinning it with Dbrand's teardown skin, but my wife still digs it, so she's still rocking a clear case. But yeah, I consider it quite the minimalist design, much less controversial than the S20 Ultra. And even though it still has the steep display curves, the Note 10 Plus is my overall favorite design device from Samsung ever. Now, of course, performance is a key metric for smartphones, and over the course of a year, Note 10 Plus has not missed a beat. In fact, my wife's Note 10 Plus seems to be a little bit faster. The speed of animations and opening apps seems to match that of my 120 Hz S20 Ultra. So my guess is that Samsung has further optimized the software to make it seem faster. So really, Note 10 Plus has not, slowed down one bit, and it might be just a little bit faster than it was on day one. And of course, the 12 gigs of RAM has held up. I mean, that's more than most laptops. So my wife is still able to open up a slew of apps and pick up right where she left off. And of course, the 256 gigs is doing just fine. I mean, I honestly don't see how someone could fill that up nowadays with unlimited high-resolution cloud storage for photos and videos from Google. And One UI is such a smooth software experience. It's literally built for larger and taller devices like the Note 10 Plus. So despite its size, the user interface still allows for you to reach icons that are typically way at the top of the display. But still, my wife and I always rock pop sockets, something I've been doing since the S7 Edge in 2016. But yeah, features like screen off memo and handwriting search in Samsung Notes, and just the overall ability to quickly and intuitively take notes or jot down thoughts with the S Pen really makes the Note 10 Plus a serious productivity device. With my thoughts all over the place, it was easy for me to quickly jot them down via the home screen widget, and I actually love the active writing, so the S Pen is right up my alley. But an interesting fact, Apple just announced a new feature for the Apple Pencil that enables the ability to copy handwriting and paste it. So you can highlight the handwritten text, press copy, then paste right to another text field. As it stands on the Note 10 Plus, you must first convert that handwritten text to actual text and then copy and paste. So it's one extra step that I just hope Samsung gets rid of with the Note 20s. Now, air gestures, oh boy. I will say that is a feature that we tried to use, but there just weren't enough use cases for it to actually make sense. My pen was mostly only ever out just to jot something down, so yeah, not a feature for me. I still would have liked it though if you could rewind in YouTube with a little twirl though. That would have definitely been dope. But there just weren't too many app developers that took advantage of the APK to expand the use cases, so it's really something that just didn't quite pan out. Another one from Samsung. But Samsung has done a really good job with the software updates. We've seen quite a few of the camera features launched with the S20s trickle down to the Note 10s, like Pro Mode for video, the single take camera feature, and the new quick share feature, which is Samsung's version of AirDrop. So that really makes it feel like you're not missing much on the Note 10 Plus, and it still reigns true that Bixby Routines is one of the best features of One UI. I don't care what anybody says, you can really make your phone work for you. And hey, if you get tired of the same setup, GoodLock is there to help spice things up with a whole new set of customizations for the user interface. Now, my wife has been mentioning that the battery is not lasting as long. And like I said, I only had the device for about 7 months or so, so it didn't seem to affect me, but my wife's definitely having to put it on the charger more and more throughout the day. Now, I will say that Samsung somewhat makes up for it with the 45-watt charger, but still, after a year, you'd expect the battery life to still keep up. Now, it could be the fact that we're working from home now, so she is using her phone a lot more than before, but we'll just have to look at the data and see how that compares. But let me know with a comment down below if you've experienced any battery issues on your end. And last but not least, the cameras have held up quite nicely over the past year or so. In my S20 Ultra review, which I'll link in the cards, I mentioned that I could not definitively say that the S20 Ultra's camera system was better than the Note 10 Plus's. Dynamic range holds up very well on the front and rear cameras, and the sharpness is there. Also, autofocus has been fast the entire time, something that was not the case with the $1,400 S20 Ultra, and there's great consistency across all three cameras. So when you pull this guy out, you're likely going to only have to take one picture, and that's the one. One feature that hasn't trickled down though is the countdown timer for night mode. It just tells you to hold your phone steady and you have no idea for how long, but still when you do hold steady, the image does come out very solid. So yeah, the cameras are still competitive in the smartphone camera landscape here in 2020. So from what we know so far, should you upgrade to the Note 20 Plus or Ultra, whichever they decide to call it? And for me, the answer is yes, because I always like to test the latest and greatest. The larger Note 20 is rumored to be able to run 120 Hz and QHD Plus resolution simultaneously using an LTPO display. Low temperature polycrystalline silicon, basically the super technical term for variable refresh rate, which will really be able to help with power efficiency by slowing down that refresh rate when 120 Hz is not needed. For example, using the always on display or looking at a static image. It's also rumored to have an improved autofocus system since the one we saw in the S20 was less than stellar. And they seem to be keeping the 108 megapixel camera and the 100 times space zoom, so I'm sure we'll see some improvements over the S20 Ultra. So if you're coming from a Note 9, you should absolutely upgrade to the Note 20 or Note 20 Plus. You're going to be getting a substantially better display, better camera, bigger battery, and a better S Pen. However, if you're coming from a Note 10 Plus, I would say not so much. There will likely be spec improvements, but none drastic enough to force an upgrade. And many of the new features we've seen launch on the S20s have trickled down via One UI 2.1, and we'll likely see One UI 2.5 features trickle down as well. So, All in all, Note 10 Plus was and still is a very solid all-arounder from Samsung, and I've personally always been a bigger fan of the Note series ever since the Note 3, and every Note device since then has moved the needle in the right direction. But in the past, it's been easier to differentiate the two, but as they pour more and more features into the S series, it's getting a little bit harder to describe the Note devices as something other than S devices with an S Pen. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, then leave a comment down below with your experience with either the Note 10 or Note 10 Plus, or hey, maybe let me know if you were thinking about getting one for yourself. Now, with that being said, guys, please do me a huge favor by leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, hit the bell so that you can be notified every single time that I upload more videos discussing my experience with today's dopest tech. All right, guys, be safe out there. Peace and love.